Yeah, my name is Veronica Irwin. I'm an independent journalist and research consultant. And I just wanted to talk about a report that I published with the Vice President of Regulatory Affairs at Paradigm, Justin Slaughter, on Monday. And it's called Bridging the Gap: How Crypto Expands Financial Access for America's Underbanked. Just a little bit of context. This report was about a population of people called unbanked and underbanked. Unbanked is pretty simple to understand. It's just people that don't have a bank account. But underbanked is a little bit more vague, so I want to provide the definition. And it's a person who does have a checking account, but who uses non-bank financial products like non-bank money orders, check cashing, international remittances, or peer-to-peer payment apps like Venmo or PayPal to meet core financial needs. So to pay their rent, to buy their groceries, keep the lights on, things like that. And that definition is what is used when the federal government does research on this population. So we didn't just make it up. You see it referenced in reports by the Federal Reserve, FDIC, CFPB, and the like. Globally, the World Bank estimates there's about 1.4 billion people who were unbanked in 2021. So that's 24% of the world's adults. I was really startled by that. Luckily, the percentage is smaller in the United States, but it's still significant. The Federal Reserve Board estimates that about 6% of American adults were unbanked in 2024, and even more were underbanked. And this percentage is particularly high amongst low-income adults, young people, Black and Hispanic Americans, and also people with disabilities. And so as I kind of just suggested, there's been plenty of research to look at how many people fall into these categories and also how many of them use crypto. The Federal Reserve estimates about 3% of Americans are using crypto because they don't trust banks. And there's an overlap with the underbanked population, for example. But there's not very much research into how and why they use crypto. And that's what we set out to try to understand. So rather than doing a poll or trying to quantify this population with a survey, we went the route of doing in-depth qualitative interviews with people that fell into this category to kind of start the conversation, and hopefully that yields more research to kind of understand how these reasons break down across the broader population. But we did in-depth interviews with 11 unbanked and underbanked people. These were 1 hour interviews, in-depth, one-on-one conversations. And they were also granted anonymity. So we hope that yielded a little bit more, people to be a little bit more transparent, especially because a lot of these people were immigrants and several of them had documentation issues. But what we found was pretty surprising, I thought. Across the board, pretty much everybody said that they had issues with trusting traditional banks, and that was a major reason why they used crypto. They talked about how they felt using crypto for everyday payments was actually more secure than credit cards or debit cards. Several of them had instances where they, made a purchase online and their credit card information was stolen. And they would bring up how, to make an online purchase, they have to put in all their credit card information and trust some third party with it. But with crypto, they didn't have to disclose everything in that same way. I guess somewhat predictably, there was a lot of talk about efficiency as well. People that just did not understand why a payment took so long to settle, took several days often to settle with traditional finance when they had used crypto and they had seen it settle within a couple of minutes. We saw a similar trend talking about fees associated with payments. And this was particularly acute for people that were regularly sending money abroad. So especially our immigrant population that was sending money back home, they saw exceptionally high fees and even longer processing times. I think a lot of us are kind of familiar with this use case for crypto, but I think it was a good reminder how often this came up. But what I found the most interesting was how consistently people talked about crypto changing their perceptions of money. Most of the folks we talked to would identify as low income. And so they were used to being in a paycheck to paycheck mindset and kind of a financial survivalist kind of mindset and, focused on how to stretch their dollar. But they talked about once they started using crypto, how they tried to start thinking like, okay, is there any portion of this that I can save? Is there any portion of this that I can invest? What about staking? What about like getting a yield on my holdings? That just weren't things they were really thinking about when it came to money and how to budget their finances before. And a lot of them talked about, just kind of using money as like a method to thrive and like better their financial circumstances. Whereas before they were exposed to crypto, they weren't really thinking about it that way or didn't see that potential for themselves. There's a lot more to the full report. I tried to kind of make it like a cheat sheet of all the data that is out there that is relevant to this conversation, in addition to, conveying anecdotes and like portions of the interview, quotes from different people. Everybody's given a pseudonym, but just to kind of give you an idea of the personalities of people that crypto is attracting in this like unbanked and underbanked population. So I encourage everybody to read the full report. It's at paradigm.xyz under the research tab. And if you have any questions, please reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. I check my DM requests on X as well. My @'s Veron Irwin, VRON IRWIN, or all the Project Glitch people have my email as well. Thanks.
Veronica, thank you.